Market Musings podcast with Fairbairn and Russell. Hello and welcome to the Market Musings podcast, where today our guest is Paul Johnson, the CEO of Power Metal Resources. Now, we did speak to Paul on the Market Musings podcast quite a long time ago, Paul. I think you were one of our early guests on the podcast. But of course, it's great to have you back on. Lots of things have changed, both at Power Metal Resources. It's a different business, I think, now to what we spoke about originally. And of course, things developing in the junior mining, exploration space and metals prices. So I'm hoping we can talk about those kind of things today. So welcome back. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Yes, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, very good. Thank you, Paul. Very good. And of course, Kenny is joining us. And Kenny, how are you doing?
Yep, I'm all good, and it's great to speak again, Paul. Seems like a lifetime ago we done that podcast. I think you were about number 5 or 6. We must have been in the 160s or something by now, Mark.
Yeah, so 167, 168, something like that. So, yes, it's been going over 2 years now.
Yeah, it seems crazy. Something that started almost as a bet has developed into something that we both enjoy and we do as much as we can as time permits. But no, it's good to have Paul back on. And like I say, in that time, I'm sure you've got as many grey hairs as me now, Paul, or no hair, as the case may be.
You say it's podcast number 168. It feels like my age at the moment, to be honest. I definitely have more grey hair than when we did the first one, with everything that's been going on in our space over the last year or so.
Yeah. Well, the business has, of course, changed dramatically, hasn't it, since then, Paul? I think you were just setting out to build the company at that point, and now here we are with a vast portfolio with 2 IPO spin-outs. So, I mean, if you can think back over the progress of the last 18 months, could you sum it up?
Yeah, I can. It was a failed business back in early 19. It had West and Central African interests. It wasn't inspiring the market. It was a tough market back then. It was called African Battery Metals, of course. That was its name then, with a ticker ABM. And they were suspended in late 18, pending financial clarification, which means they ran out of money. And they ran out of money because of the lack of inspiring of the market. So we put that money in, £1 million back in Feb 19. We started the process of reviewing the existing interests, and we brought in some additional new opportunities, and we've been really building the company out for 3 years now. Our space is one where when things get hot and exciting, it's difficult to buy any asset in the commodity space at a decent price level. But when things are difficult in the space, as there has been for much of the last 3 years, then you can generally do pretty decent deals and build your portfolio up. So not quite a land grab, but similar in some respects. And we've been building out. So since that last podcast number 6 or whatever, we've been very active. We're now spread across 3 continents with, I think, circa 14 projects. Or project packages, and it's a completely different business to what we started with.
Mm-hmm. Of course, this is completely yours, isn't it? You've had past history in the stock market, being board of directors and CEO of different companies, but this is really something that you've built in your own vision. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I've had a lot of help and support along the way. I mean, the first 2 years, it was really just the board of African Battery, and then we changed our name to Power Metal Resources in mid-19. It was the board with advisors, and we worked on it together. In the last year, I've had an increasing staff base. We're now a team of 10. We've got lots of specialist geological skills, which we didn't have in the early days. We've got, business administration, marketing, communications, the full suite that you'd need to have as your business grows to a large size and scale. And it certainly does embody most of my kind of learning from the past 12 years, is it? 10 years, running public resource companies. I think we've done it pretty close to optimally in terms of how we've gone about our business. I see the last 3 years as a very tough, hard working period for the company where we've done an awful lot of work. The last year has been particularly tough because, of course, the effort that's gone in, the quality of work that's been done, the progress that's been made isn't reflected, in the market's share price, or the share price of the company in the market. And that's always a challenge, frustrating and difficult to deal with, whoever you are in our space. But yeah, I'm happy with where we are right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So where would you say you are right now then? Of course, with your direct project and the spin-outs, what is the overall aim, the overall business plan?
Make money, Mark.
Make money. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So
through major metal discoveries and
yeah, but you got to remember ours is a cyclical space. So I think we're in for a ripper of an upcycle in the junior resource sector, and we can go into that a little bit later, perhaps. I think we're in for a major ripper, and I've been through a decent ripper in the period 2008 to 11, where I saw a dramatic personal portfolio return 200 times on my money, which is incredible. I saw almost all junior resource shares rise dramatically. Some of them, through the stratosphere, as it were. And we're going to have that experience again, I'm sure of it. But it's still cyclical, and at some point that cycle will fade away. So we might have 2 or 3 years of upside ahead of us. We might have 7 or 8. I don't know. But at some point, it's all going to turn. So if you hold a share that's 1 pence today, it may well go to 50 pence. But in 7 or 8 years' time, it may well be back at 2 pence. So it's all about timing in our space. And it's important, yes, to make money, to make discoveries, to drive the share price higher, to sell projects, make disposals and generate significant amounts of capital, to joint venture, to do earnings, to do IPOs, all these different things that Power Metal is involved with, because we are involved in all of them. Well, you've got to see crystallization of value. You've got to see the shareholders in the business, including the board, quite frankly, including me, to be really honest about it, make returns from that upcycle. So it's about getting the money out of the business too for everyone who's involved along the way. So it's make money, it's crystallize that value and distribute that value in the fairest way possible for all the parties involved in the company.
Well, we can talk about... Oh, sorry, go on, Kenny.
No, I was just going to say I was quietly listening there, Mark and Paul. Now, I was just thinking about the POW balance sheet. I mean, obviously, it's pretty strong at the moment, Paul, when the markets are dead. And you talked about share prices going from 1 to 50 pence. So you can imagine what that would do for the POW balance sheet over a 2 or 3 year period of an upcycle.
Yeah, it's going up as we speak. We published in the last quarterly report at the end of March what the assets of the business were. I'm going to get this horribly wrong. It was 10 point something million pounds at that point. And it's been rising quite strongly. If you look and compare back to previous periods, you'll see that rise up. And that's as we start to crystallize in our business, and crystallize includes, when we do pre-IPOs on these spin-out vehicles, when we do the IPOs, we actually get to recognize the value that's being created in these packages. And that bolts onto our balance sheet. And in theory, anyway, you're going to see quite significant step uplifts in our balance sheet value as the months go by.
Yeah, and you've got to. I'm saying it imminent, Paul. You never know with the listing process. You can never pin it down. But you've obviously got Golden Metal Resources. Looks like being the first IPO to hit the ground running. Hopefully, in the next 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Well, maybe we'll be beaten to the post by First Class Metals. If you recall, we brought that the Hemlo Schreiber interests just over a year ago, and we then sold them into First Class and took quite a material position in First Class Metals. As we sit today, we're circa 36% of that company, and First Class are seeking a listing in London. And then on that listing, we'll have a reduced percentage, but it will still be a significant percentage in that business. And that's our first kind of quasi IPO, really. I would guess. in terms of handling IPOs ourselves, Golden Metal looks like the first. We're knee deep in the work process for that at the moment. And that's the Nevada focus package, Nevada, USA. And that includes the Pilot Mountain large strategic tungsten deposit, which is, particularly attractive at the moment with everything that's happening in North America and the world at large. And then there's others coming down the wire as well. Quite a flow of IPO disposal events coming, and they will all help build the business.
Yeah, no, it's definitely exciting times, Paul. Like it's almost like a conveyor belt. Once you get the first one going, they'll all come along like buses. It always does. It's like sometimes it's like share winners. You wonder where the next one's going to come, and before you know it, you're hit with 3 in a week, and then the next 51 weeks are just tumbleweed. But you've just got to take it when it comes.
Oh, it's like seeing your kids off to university or whatever. In my case, because these vehicles, we've created them all ourselves. Literally, all of them have been created ourselves, and I'm quite sad to see them go. To be honest, that's what you want. I would be delighted if some of these IPO assets were retained by Power. I'm obviously delighted to set them free as well as in their own independent vehicles, but they're all A1 asset groupings that we've brought together. The Pilot Mountain stuff is, or the Golden Metal Resources package, including Pilot Mountain, is unique.
I mean, we know Pilot Mountain well, obviously, because it was previously a Thor asset, but obviously, he said, with the issues going on in the wider world at the moment, tungsten suddenly became it was already a critical metal, but there's even more focus on it, and obviously, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Pilot Mountain's the largest tungsten resource in North America at the moment.
Yeah, it's the largest known, well understood tungsten deposit in North America. It's in the heart of Nevada. It's which is of course a mining friendly jurisdiction. It's perfectly positioned. It's not going to disrupt anybody. It's got good infrastructure into it. It's got previous production from the site. It's got all those positive features. It's a high grade tungsten resource, 0.27%. Most of the, if you look at commercial production of tungsten, 0.1% and above seems to be the benchmark, or has been historically. Tungsten right now is a high priced commodity. It's circa $35,000 a ton. You generally see tungsten priced in what we call MTU, which is metric ton unit, which is 10 kilos. So you'll often see quoted as 350, say. But it's $35,000 a ton. It's used for all sorts of, industrial applications. Critical mineral on the 2022 US Geological Survey critical minerals list. And they don't produce they don't have recorded mined production in the United States. They recycle, they import, they use their strategic reserve, where necessary. But it's a commodity which is going to be very much in demand, and good quality projects are going to be very much in demand. And I think we've got one of the best, to be honest. I think the value of that is completely understated at the moment, and hopefully the listing, all being well, of Golden Metal will help to bring that value out.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I want to just bring you back to something you said earlier, Paul, about the sector about to kick, and we're going to see some those 200% X's on our money that you've seen before. Now, I remember in my private investing days, however, before I used to do these podcasts and interviews, that I used to listen to you on interviews. Right. on another podcast, and is it sounding a bit like a broken record, Paul? I know you've been saying this for quite a while. I remember going back to almost 2014, and I think in 2015, sort of the similar kind of comments of the sector it's due its upturn, and it is cyclical. We know that, and it's overdue its upturn. So Yeah. What at risk of sounding like a broken record, what do you feel it even stronger now? I mean, I know how I feel, and probably Kenny. I get Kenny's feeling as well. But do you feel that opinion of yours is even stronger now?
Yeah, well, of course, with a cyclical market, all you have to be is like a stop
Yeah.
clock, don't you? You
Mm.
just have to, all you have to do is be there. The danger is that your capital can be eroded away to nothing if you make the wrong choices along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have much capital left at the end of the process. But it doesn't really matter. When I started back in 2008, I had almost no capital. I mean, a few £1,000s really. And I'm not the best investor in the world, but my life has changed. Compared to where I was back then, it's been quite dramatic. Obviously, I don't want to particularly articulate my personal balance sheet over, a discussion, but I mean, it's obvious. People can. My holding in Power Metal Resources is worth well over £1 million.
Mm-hmm.
From a few £1,000s start, 12, almost more than that now, isn't it? 13, 14 years ago, I've obviously done quite well. And I did a little bit of investing in the fintech space. I did a bit of investing in the biotech space, but predominantly it's been junior resource companies. And it's been on the basis that if you just stick to your broken record philosophy, you pick good companies, reasonably honest management teams, and you don't get dissuaded along the way. You don't get too sad, too depressed when prices are low. You don't get too excited when prices are high. Generally speaking, you'll do well. I think that's the case, Mark. I think it is as simple as that. And
you've got to be lucky as well, Paul. There is an element of luck. I've certainly had a few winners that were just right place, right time, and probably just a gut feeling more than anything else. It happens all the time.
If you read the book, I think it's Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, he says in there that, when you go, when people do interviews, so they bring candidates in for new jobs, that as soon as that person walks through the door, within a second, if that person's right. And then you spend 30 minutes in the interview trying to change your opinion to the wrong opinion. And that's why interviews generally don't work. It's the same. I think it's the same thing with investing. I think you do have a degree of intuition. And that's quite important. But I don't think that intuition is there from an innate perspective. I think it's something that by working hard, by studying stocks, studying what people say about stocks, by watching patterns, getting involved, learning, making mistakes, and really fecking it up big time a number of times, you develop the mental kind of understanding, the knowledge base from which the intuition can really kick in fast. And I know we've spoken, Kenny, before about, really difficult kind of times in the market, and that we've both been through. And I think that type of experience, and a lot of people are going through that right now, of real financial difficulty, challenge, and worry. That's what gives you the backdrop to make that intuitive call, and you make the money. Now you can call that luck if you want, but I think it's nothing to do with luck. I think it's experience, knowledge, and intuition all coming together to work in your favour.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I fell out of the stock markets for 3 or 4 years. I was hurting that bad from my well, I call it my Billy Big Balls period, where I got a bit too brave, and when the stock market took everything back. So yeah, no, I've been there, worn that t-shirt, and I never thought I would come back, but here you go away, you lick your wounds, you have a think about it, and you say, what, life's not a dress rehearsal, there's opportunities here, let's go and make something happen and come at it from a different angle. And it seems so far to have to work for me. I mean, I'll be pretty open, I was left with a lot of debt from what happened in post 2009-10, but through hard work and just get my head down, I managed to turn that around. So, if there's anyone listening out there that you think the world's coming to an end, it's definitely not. You've just got to pick yourself up, get your head down and go on with it, and you can turn that around. But you've got to believe in yourself at the end of the day. It's not, nobody's going to give it to you on a plate. You've got to go out there and basically earn it, for want of a better
But
term.
on that theme of the world coming to an end, what do you think that has to be a catalyst moment for us to see the catalyst of the kick in the mining and exploration space? Historically, that is what's happened. And I mean, for me, I look at the charts and they just scare me. The S&P, the FTSE, the Nasdaq, they're just scary, And I think they're really due a big correction. And then perhaps out of that, after however long it takes, hopefully not too long of pain, that then you start to see the mining and commodity space, the precious metal space, really start to kick, which I think will be born out of the shift to the green economy. Batteries, electric vehicles, all that stuff will drive then investment in that space. That is my gut feeling, that we are going to see a bit of a correction and a bit of pain before we really see the sector kick. I mean, I don't know what your opinions are on that, Paul, whether you think it will just start to kick and things will continue. But honestly, the big charts, they just look scary to me.
Yeah. Okay. So over the last 18 months, or since early 21, the markets haven't done too bad. In fairness, look at the FTSE and the Dow and all the rest. Yet the metals, the metal space has been going great guns, dramatically well. If you look at the price of metals on the whole, yet the junior resource company space has been falling through the floor through that entire period. So clearly, the junior resource space can separate itself out from mainstream markets. And if we can do that on the downside, when it's the mainstream markets are doing very well and the resource space is falling, it can do it the other way as well. I think junior resources have been under the cosh for a long period of time, despite all of the sensible metrics that would support a rising sector doing extremely well. So I'm not worried in the slightest. Market's going to fly. It's clear. I mean, it's just a question of when. Yeah. And I see time and time again. I get this in Power Metal, and you need to deflect a lot of the criticism when you're running a company. All of the stuff that we've been doing in our business over the last year or so has added considerable value. Almost entirely, there's been a couple of things that haven't quite worked out, but pretty much the whole of the business has been moving forward like a juggernaut, and our market value has been falling. So people say, "Oh, well, you're failing because the share price isn't moving." Well, I could have sat on my arse for the last 15 months and done absolutely feck all during that period, and our business wouldn't have advanced, and our share price probably would have been on the same pattern. But what about going forward? If I had sat on my arse and done nothing, then we'd have had an okay business, but not an outstanding business as we have today. A business that's built for a recovery in the junior resource space. And then when that recovery kicks in, the full value of what we built will become apparent. So I'll probably get, my managerial halo down the line sometime when everyone goes, blimey, I wish I'd have seen Power Metal Resources before I did. But I've got great confidence in our space. And the fact that you're worrying, the fact that so many people are worrying, the fact that those that are not worrying are incredibly frustrated, because I'm not worrying, I'm incredibly frustrated. And there's plenty like me, I know. The fact that you're in that emotional zone at the moment is a great sign. If you were ebullient and positive and everything was fantastic and you were talking about flying to the moon on different stocks and you were thinking it, you'd be about to take a bath. Like the opposite is true here.
Mm-hmm. And then for power metals, then the business you've built, the position you've put yourself in, sounds bad, but the business you've built ready for the upswing in the commodity space, is the value, the true value, is it dependent on the upswing in the sector, or is it dependent as well on major metal discoveries? Or I mean, both, I suppose, ideally. But what I'm saying is, are you just positioning yourself, waiting for the upswing in the mining and commodity space, or Are you looking for that big discovery to be the catalyst moment for power metals?
Yeah. Well, my job is to reduce the odds and to do it with a diversified approach. So if you're hoping in our space, because it's cyclical, you can make money by investing in companies that never find anything of any value or substance. All right. Because when the tide comes in, all boats rise. So that's the great thing about the junior resource space. Even with investing in a whole heap of failures, you can make a fortune. So that's the backdrop. Discoveries are great, but they're exceptionally rare. Big material discoveries. There's a lot of excitement about what might be from these different exploration programs that companies do. And of course, all companies are going to articulate enthusiastically about what they've found and how the future of the projects are great, bright, they're potentially major discoveries. But almost none of them will deliver anything of any value. So you've got to be careful going after major metal discoveries. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it seriously. And by seriously, I mean maybe do what Power's done, which is we just launched our 6th drill program in 18 months. And drill programs are a bit of a nightmare because once you start getting rock out of the ground, you really see the geology and you start to get a sense as to whether you might be onto something. And the problem is with the discovery route is that even if you're onto something, in difficult phases in the market like we got now, you could get some phenomenal results out. And the market goes, well, unless it's 10 meters of 3% nickel, I'm not interested. And even if it was 10 meters of 3% nickel in recent months, if you'd have come out and announced it, you probably would have gone up 5% and fallen 10 at the end of the day. You know, because the market's so harsh and tough and challenging at times like this. So there is undeniably major upside for major discoveries. I've experienced it myself. I've lived the experience when we made the T3 discovery at Metal Tiger in Botswana, the copper silver deposit. I've lived that experience, the 50 meters, 2% copper. It's quite something. I've seen other companies that have reorganized, refinanced, go on and make some major discoveries. Greatland Gold is the best known example. Eurasia Mining, the refinanced back in 2014, go on and become £1 billion company. So, yeah, I mean, major deposits, if you can find them, are a great thing and can add tremendous value, not necessarily immediately. I think Greatland made the discovery at Javieron in 2018, bobbled around 2 or 3 pence for quite some while, and then eventually started making its move post the COVID dip in March 20, all the way up to 38 pence in early 21. You had to wait a few years before you saw the kicker on that one. So yes, discoveries can be a game changer, a little bit dependent even on market conditions. But if you find the big deposits, yes, you're off and running. I tell you what, Mark, if you find a big nickel deposit at the moment, you'll fly because the majors are hovering everywhere over the nickel project. Now, the second stream to strand to the business is, of course, the commercialization route. Because as I said to you at the start, you can make money in our space no matter what. When the tide comes in, all boats rise. By us commercializing part of our business, we're exposing Power and our shareholders to the benefit of that rising tide in the space. If we've got in 12 months' time 7 or 8 vehicles that we have significant stakes in around the market or the markets in the junior resource space, our balance sheet will swell, I believe, dramatically, which will be great for our company overall. And that's another angle to generate that, that capital growth in our business.
So really, you're building an empire at the same time, looking for that major metal discovery.
Yeah, but remember, the empire strikes back, and that is the problem, that we're in a cyclical market. You've got to get the capital out. Now, I've got to be honest with the shareholders and say, look, it's not all about you. Other non-board shareholders, they're in a great situation because they can, the share price goes on a bender. They can sell their shares out, bank the money, go on holiday to wherever, buy cars, buy houses, buy just buy a nice meal. They can do something with their capital. The directors in the company need to benefit too. So I'm building this company that's going to benefit myself, going to benefit other directors, all of our team are, as they say in Canada, papered up. They all have options, so they will benefit too. And all the way across the business, all the people who are involved, including the stakeholders in our projects, are making sure that everyone has exposure. And I want to make sure that everyone can get capital out or cash out of this business as it progresses and does well, which is why I'm so fixated on this distribution policy as part of our business plan, to make sure that we can get capital out of the business as the sector goes through this growth phase.
Okay.
One thing we've not talked about, and I think is relevant, Paul, is obviously, cash is king, especially in these markets. Your share price can be on its knees, but if you attract attention, if you've got a decent cash position, and obviously you can't disclose what cash position Pow's got at the moment, but the last set of the results, it looked extremely healthy. I think it was 3 million from memory. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
The last one that we disclosed, I think, was the end of Feb. The figures at the end of Feb, I think it was it 2.4 million or something?
Oh, wasn't far away.
Yeah.
Was 600K.
Yeah, and on top of that, we've actually built, if you look at our business model, which is available on our website, you'll see we have a very large network of companies, and we built our business in such a way that everything is compartmentalized, usually under its own corporate wrapper. So as the sector continues to strengthen, it started already, in fairness, then we can dispose of a whole heap of different interests in different ways that can generate further capital for the company going forward. I wouldn't say we are in, happy clappy land with regard to our balance sheet at the moment. We're not. We're still building it, but we're not too far away, in fairness, from becoming self-sufficient if this pattern continues to develop.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an ideal position to be in, because there's a lot of companies just burying their heads, and directors at the moment, just in the hope that the market recovers and they can raise some money. But you just need to look around. There's not as many companies raising money at the moment at all, and if they are, it's smaller amounts, because it's tough. Everybody's holding on to their money. There's no liquidity in the markets, and I'll hold my hand up. I've moved a lot of my portfolio out of mining stocks and put it into crypto. And listen, that goes in the exact same cycles as the mining stocks as well. And that's a complete new ball game as well. But there's definitely money sloshing around at some point to come back into the mining sector. It's just what is going to trigger that. I don't know if it's a black swan event in the world or. No idea. It'll be something stupid that nobody's seen coming, and it'll just go.
It's going to be a tsunami effect, if I can use that phrase, because at the moment it's like the wave is bobbling across the ocean, and if you're on a little dinghy, all you'll feel is a little gentle rock of the boat as the tsunami wave passes. But as it gets to the shore, it rises dramatically, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a wall of money into a tiny space, because it is really, and it'll be like a bursting dam type effect. That's what's happening at the moment. And the advantage is that you, as I sometimes say in interviews, for all the people that criticize the metal space, you all still get up in the morning and make tea using a metal kettle, don't you? Or with a metal element. And you get on your mobile phones that have got rare earths in them or tungsten in them. And then you might do a bit of DIY with a tungsten tipped drill bit. And then you jump into your car. You're not all driving around in Flintstones cars. All got metal cars using vast amounts of copper, and those with an environmental twist in their motoring are using a car with vast amounts of copper in it, charging up using copper electric cables. For this world is going more metallized than it ever has been by a country mile. And there's been precious little investment in the metal space over the years. the last couple of decades. It's shocking. I mean, absolutely shocking. And now what's happening is the big firms, the majors, the mid-tiers are all hovering around. They used to only be interested if they were to buy existing mines and deposits. Then they were interested if there was an advanced exploration project, that they could take forward. Now, it's not quite sniff of an oily rag, but if you've got anything interested in these big district scale projects, they're around you all the time, hovering all the time.
And obviously the rise in commodity prices as well. Paul is making a lot of projects that were maybe 10 years ago uneconomic. All of a sudden, the figures for these projects stack up. So there's a lot of projects that have been mothballed and just dropped. The companies that are suddenly becoming interesting and in more obscure places as well. People are starting to look. I mean, Africa's seen a massive explosion in exploration, particularly gold. There's lots of areas that people wouldn't even dream of exploring. They are suddenly becoming attractive. Greenland's it's got a massive area of untapped reserves, and all of a sudden, there's 2 or 3 main companies that are really starting to motor over there.
There are, and it's not you don't even have to go into challenging and difficult territories. There's still vast amounts of areas that have not been fully developed that are resource rich, highly prospective in secure jurisdictions. You look at Botswana, the T3 copper discovery led to a whole heap of people pegging ground in that part of the Kalahari copper belt. The bit that was missed is further southwest from the T3 discovery down to the Namibian border. And that was much more free, far less attention, because everyone likes to go and peg ground around a discovery. Well, they do that because it helps to bolster their share price. They can raise money on the back of the story. It's all very exciting. But the real big money and the real big potential and the real big opportunity is in going and securing ground that other people are not that excited about, where you might have the edge of know-how and understanding, or you might just be prepared to take a risk. And it's the same, and that's why with the Kalahari Copperbelt joint venture with Kavango, we've got 4,500 square kilometers of ground southwest of T3, down towards the Namibian border, south of the town of Hansi, where so many others were not looking. I imagine they will be soon. But if you look at the Patterson region, the great Javieron discovery, that led to a whole heap of land being pegged up around Javieron. The prices on the properties there were astonishing. People wanting millions for little pieces of ground, all because it was near Javieron. But there wasn't a lot of attention up near Wallal, where we've secured the ground and built quite a large 750 square kilometre ground position across the 3 project groups. And but we thought it was interesting. It's the same type of geology, just not really the hot territory that everyone was getting excited about. I think there will be soon. And we had the same experience in Victoria, in the Victoria Goldfields, around the time of the COVID lockdowns, phase 1. And quarter 1, quarter 2, 2020, when we started securing ground in the Victoria Goldfields, that was just fascinating. Everyone was getting excited, hot under the collar about Fosterville, and we're pegging up everything around there. But Ballarat, which was the original gold mining focus 100 years ago, before everyone moved over to Western Australia, around Kalgoorlie, very few people were interested. So we secured a significant land position there, whilst not many other people were looking. Well, the ground has, of course, become very popular since that point, since 2 years ago, and I suspect soon will become even more popular.
Victoria's a pretty crowded place now. I mean, I do have some minor skills in the mineral mapping systems, and I must admit I've watched Victoria go from quite a lot of available, reasonable properties to next to nothing in the space of 6 months. I remember the Victorian Mines Department put out an article, and it was just like a ridiculous amount of applications they had. I think it was February 2020. I think they had more applications in February 2020 than they had in the previous 18 months. You know, it was just a ridiculous explosion. It just shows you what can happen. And I guess the same, I mean, Athabasca, Paul, obviously you guys have got a footprint, a uranium footprint there, but from my limited knowledge, it looks like it's pretty much pegged to death, and more so in recent months with the, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. It's just seen an explosion of land grabs, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, it turns on the 6 months sometimes. We've been watching that for months. The Athabasca, we'd planned to take some ground at some point, but it was I think it was Sprott were buying up all the uranium, and the price of uranium was starting to move, and the sector was drawing a bit more interest. So in the space of literally an hour one morning, we decided to make the move and get on with it. And that's the advantage of a small company, or if you keep a entrepreneurial kind of focus. I got board approval for the spend within 20 minutes, literally, because we were thinking about it already. We'd prepped for it. So I went for the budget to get it done fast, and it wasn't huge amounts of money, but we're quite careful with the capital. And then we had the first areas pegged up within one day. And then we added to that. And I think anyone who's got ground in and around the Athabasca is going to do exceptionally well, whether or not they find anything, to be quite frank. I mean, our ground was pegged on the base, or staked on the basis of historical exploration and known results, uranium shows and so on. And there was some logic to it. But I suspect people will make millions upon millions, tens of millions from the Athabasca, possibly without doing any work, without anything being there, without the sniff of anything significant, because it will become even hotter in the future than it is today.
Mm. Yeah, there's no doubt the sector's going to kick. It's going to kick big and hard, but it's just when. And like you said before, just take your positions in good companies and just wait it out. I wonder if we can sum up, Paul, if it's possible, to perhaps do what's to come news flow wise from Power Metals with all the exploration across the projects. Can you do a quick fire kind of roundup of what people can expect to perhaps be announced in the near future?
No.
Oh, okay.
And that's the whole point, because we got an embarrassment of resource riches around our business, and we've taken far more into our business than a sensible junior would. But I don't want to come out of this making £1 million, as having been through this process, of the last 3 years, and the relentless work. I want to make tens of millions. Mm-hmm. And relative to their shareholding, I want our shareholders to do particularly well. Now, if you've got a small amount invested in the company, then you make 10 times your money. It's still going to be significant for you, and it either for your day-to-day life, or to give you additional investment capital to buy other things. Once you sell the shares and hopefully do 10 times again. If you make 25 times, even better. So I never wanted our business to be capable of being summed up in a 30-second elevator speech. I've stopped even trying to do it. But if you look at where this business is kind of going, you've got a unique Nevada, USA packaged gold and metal, all being well, going to hit the markets in the not too distant future. You've got first-class metals, a significant strategic Hemlo Schreiber, Ontario, Canada, gold-based metal, strategic metal exploration package about to hit the market soon. Those are going to be two great events that I think will generate considerable value for the shareholders, including POW. In North America, you've got a very large, one of the largest uranium packages in POW in the Athabasca region. You've got a great 30% stake in Silver Peak, lovely silver project, high-grade former producing mine, nice lithium projects in the OVA that, could see some quite interesting stuff transpire over the coming months and years, maybe less than years. So North America, we're really charged up. In Australia, you've got two big potential spin outs with First Development Resources following a similar Javieron style magnetic bullseye model in Western Australia. Phenomenal uranium rare earths interest in the Northern Territory. The CELTA project is really starting to shine. And that will hopefully be in its own listed wrapper, which is where it does really need to be. Very exciting package. And then New Ballarat Gold in Victoria, 2,300 square kilometres of ground. Most of it granted, amazingly dwarfing our peers. I mean, dwarfing in terms of size and scale of granted ground. One of the largest, actually, in the area. And that, we hope will find its way into its own listed wrapper soon. And then we've got this little old project called Gawler Creighton. I bet you don't even know about that. And that's in South Australia. 1,994 square kilometres of ground, following, we think, potentially similar geological features to the Olympic Dam. Huge deposit just down the road, 75 kilometres away south east of our ground in South Australia. So Australia is, buzzing for us, a huge opportunity corporately and exploration-wise. And then going back to Africa, we've our main focus is at the moment Tanzania, Haneti. We're waiting drill results from a 900-metre programme targeting nickel PGMs. Also, lithium gold, all sorts of different things in that area. Huge 80-kilometre ultramafic complex. First drill holes into that. Exciting opportunity, waiting for the results. Really looking forward to the results and updating the market on that. And then in Botswana, we've got one of the largest diverse packages in Botswana with Malopo Farms. Huge ground area. We put the first drills in late 2020, early 21, and we struck nickel in the second hole, up to 1.7% nickel. Got nickel sulfides, all the stuff you're looking for. Very excited, need to move it forward. Great project. Tati Gold and Nickel project up near Francistown in Botswana. We did very accelerated exploration. It's 100% owned project, so we kind of have control over that. Did first drilling, and we got you interviewed me on this actually. We got gold in one particular area. Cross-mapped it with all of our other information and saw some quite significant gold anomalies just outside our ground. So we put an application in over it. Very excited about that. That could be a nice little gold project. Could be a nice big gold project. And then finally, the joint venture with Kavango, Kanye Resources with Ditto. It's drilling now. Drill rig is in the field, and the Kalahari Copper Belt, the huge, 10 license areas, 4,500 square kilometres of ground in the Kalahari Copper Belt, going back to the kind of T3 type potential deposit, copper, silver mineralisation, huge area, massive opportunity. So I can't do that in 30 seconds. It's an incredible business. When people look at our business, I think they look at it and go, it's a bit complicated. Fair enough. They look at it and go, well, why is it only a 20 million cap? There must be something wrong. Well, fair enough. And I suspect once our market cap goes up to 75 million quid, it'll make more sense. At the moment, I think looking at it, it might not. But of course, my main objective as a CEO is not to make the business look right now. It's to make the business look right in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think we can leave it there. Paul, thank you very much for joining us again. Kenny, are you good?
Yeah, I'm all good. No, it was good to catch up. It's been far too long. Let's not wait until we're up in the 300s before the next one, Paul. I'll certainly have no here by then.
It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be exciting. I think I would like to say that, if you're in the resource space now, if you've been able to hang on this long, hang on a bit longer, because just at the moment when people capitulate is when things start to happen. And I'd have capitulated big time in May 2010 because the resource sector pulled back about 40% in 3 weeks, and I capped my pants. And I think I went on holiday for a few days, and it distracted me, and I didn't sell. And I had a phenomenal period in the months that followed. So from the absolute pit of despair is when you make your big money in our space. So just hang on if you can. Don't cripple yourself. Don't put yourself in a major financial risk. But if you can hang on, don't lose the faith. It's coming.
Good. Well, on that note, then we'll finish. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Kenny.
No worries. Speak to you soon, Paul.
Speak to you soon, Paul. Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Per Ben and Russell. Tune in next time.